12. Place Balaram Babu's residence, Calcutta, year 1898. Swamiji had been staying during the last 2 days at Balaram Babu's residence at Bagh Bazar. He was taking a short stroll on the roof of the house, and the disciple with 4 or 5 others was in attendance. While walking to and fro, Swamiji took up the story of Guru Govind Singh and with his great eloquence touched upon the various points in his life. How the revival of the Sikh sect was brought about by his great renunciation, austerities, fortitude, and life consecrating labors. How by his initiation he re-Hinduized Mohammedan converts and took them back into the Sikh community, and how on the banks of the Narmada he brought his wonderful life to a close. Speaking of the great power that used to be infused in those days into the initiates of Guru Govind, Swamiji recited a popular doha couplet of the Sikhs. Saba lakh par ek chadhaun, jab Guru Govind naam sunaun. The meaning is, when Guru Govind gives the name, that is the initiation, a single man becomes strong enough to triumph over 1,25,000 of his foes. Each disciple, deriving from his inspiration a real spiritual devotion, had his soul filled with such wonderful heroism. While holding forth thus on the glories of religion, Swamiji's eyes, dilating with enthusiasm, seemed to be emitting fire, and his hearers, dumb-stricken and looking at his face, kept watching the wonderful sight. After a while, the disciple said, "Sir, it was very remarkable that Guru Govind could unite both Hindus and Mussalmans within the fold of his religion and lead them both towards the same end. In Indian history, no other example of this can be found." Swamiji: Men can never be united unless there is a bond of common interest. You can never unite people merely by getting up meetings, societies, and lectures if their interests be not one and the same. Guru Govind made it understood everywhere that the men of his age, be they Hindus or Mussalmans, were living under a regime of profound injustice and oppression. He did not create any common interest, he only pointed it out to the masses. And so, both Hindus and Mussalmans followed him. He was a great worshipper of Shakti. Yet, in Indian history, such an example is indeed very rare. Finding then that it was getting late into the night, Swamiji came down with others into the parlor on the first floor, where the following conversation on the subject of miracles took place. Swamiji said, "It is possible to acquire miraculous powers by some little degree of mental concentration," and turning to the disciple, he asked, "Well, should you like to learn thought reading? I can teach that to you in 4 or 5 days." Disciple: "Of what avail will it be to me, sir?" Swamiji: "Why, you will be able to know others' minds." Disciple: "Will that help my attainment of the knowledge of Brahman?" Swamiji: "Not a bit." Disciple: "Then I have no need to learn that science. But sir, I would very much like to hear about what you have yourself seen of the manifestation of such psychic powers." Swamiji: "Once when traveling in the Himalayas, I had to take up my abode for a night in a village of the hill people. Hearing the beating of drums in the village some time after nightfall, I came to know upon inquiring of my host that one of the villagers had been possessed by a devata or good spirit. To meet his importunate wishes and to satisfy my own curiosity, we went out to see what the matter really was. Reaching the spot, I found a great concourse of people. A tall man with long bushy hair was pointed out to me, and I was told that person had got the devata on him. I noticed an axe being heated in fire close by the man, and after a while I found the red-hot thing being seized and applied to parts of his body and also to his hair. But wonder of wonders, no part of his body or hair thus branded with the red-hot axe was found to be burnt, and there was no expression of any pain in his face. I stood mute with surprise. The headman of the village meanwhile came up to me and said, "Maharaj, please exorcise this man out of your mercy." I felt myself in a nice fix, but moved to do something. I had to go near the possessed man. Once there, I felt a strong impulse to examine the axe rather closely, but the instant I touched it, I burnt my fingers, although the thing had been cooled down to blackness. The smarting made me restless, and all my theories about the axe phenomenon were spirited away from my mind. However, Smarting with the burn, I placed my hand on the head of the man and repeated for a short while the japa. It was a matter of surprise to find that the man came round in 10 or 12 minutes. Then, oh, the gushing reverence the villagers showed to me. I was taken to be some wonderful man. But all the same, I couldn't make any head or tail of the whole business. So, without a word one way or the other, I returned with my host to his hut. It was about midnight, and I went to bed. But what with the smarting burn in the hand and the impenetrable puzzle of the whole affair, I couldn't have any sleep that night. Thinking of the burning axe failing to harm living human flesh, it occurred again and again to my mind. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. Disciple. But could you later on ever explain the mystery, sir? Swamiji. No, the event came back to me in passing just now, and so I related it to you. He then resumed, but Sri Ramakrishna used to disparage these supernatural powers. His teaching was that one cannot attain to the supreme truth if the mind is diverted to the manifestation of these powers. The layman mind, however, is so weak that, not to speak of householders, even 90% of the sadhus happen to be votaries of these powers. In the West, men are lost in wonderment if they come across such miracles. It is only because Sri Ramakrishna has mercifully made us understand the evil of these powers as being hindrances to real spirituality that we are able to take them at their proper value. Haven't you noticed how, for that reason, the children of Sri Ramakrishna pay no heed to them? Swami Yogananda said to Swamiji at this moment, well, why don't you narrate to our Bengal that incident of yours in Madras when you met the famous Ghostema? At the earnest entreaty of the disciple, Swamiji was persuaded to give the following account of his experience. Once, while I was putting up at Manmatha Babu's place, I dreamt one night that my mother had died. My mind became much distracted. Not to speak of corresponding with anybody at home, I used to send no letters in those days, even to our mutt. The dream being disclosed to Manmatha, he sent a wire to Calcutta to ascertain facts about the matter. For the dream had made my mind uneasy on the one hand, and on the other, our Madras friends, with all arrangements ready, were insisting on my departing for America immediately, and I felt rather unwilling to leave before getting any news of my mother. So Manmatha, who discerned this state of my mind, suggested our repairing to a man living some way off from town, who, having acquired mystic powers over spirits, could tell fortunes and read the past and the future of a man's life. So at Manmatha's request, and to get rid of my mental suspense, I agreed to go to this man. Covering the distance partly by railway and partly on foot, we four of us, Manmatha, Alasinga, myself, and another, managed to reach the place. And what met our eyes there was a man with a ghoulish, haggard, soot-black appearance, sitting close to a cremation ground. His attendants used some jargon of South Indian dialect to explain to us that this was the man with perfect power over the ghosts. At first the man took absolutely no notice of us, and then, when we were about to retire from the place, he made a request for us to wait. Our Alasinga was acting as the interpreter, and he explained the request to us. Next, the man commenced drawing some figures with a pencil, and presently I found him getting perfectly still in mental concentration. Then he began to give out my name, my genealogy, the history of my long line of forefathers, and said that Sri Ramakrishna was keeping close to me all through my wanderings, intimating also to me good news about my mother. He also foretold that I would have to go very soon to far-off lands for preaching religion. Getting good news thus about my mother, we all travelled back to town, and after arrival received by wire from Calcutta the assurance of mother's doing well. Turning to Swami Yogananda, Swamiji remarked, everything that the man had foretold came to be fulfilled to the letter. Call it some fortuitous concurrence or anything you will. Swami Yogananda said in reply, it was because you would not believe all this before that this experience was necessary for you. Swamiji, well, I am not a fool to believe anything and everything without direct proof. And coming into this realm of Mahamaya, oh, the many magic mysteries I have come across alongside this bigger magic conjuration of a universe. Maya, it is all Maya. Goodness, what rubbish we have been talking so long this day. By thinking constantly of ghosts, men become ghosts themselves. While whoever repeats day and night, knowingly or unknowingly, I am the eternal, pure, free, self illumined Atman, verily becomes the knower of Brahman. Saying this, Swamiji affectionately turned to the disciple and said, Don't allow all that worthless nonsense to occupy your mind. Always discriminate between the real and the unreal, and devote yourself, heart and soul, to the attempt to realize the Atman. There is nothing higher than this knowledge of the Atman. All else is Maya, mere jugglery. The Atman is the one unchangeable truth. This I have come to understand, and that is why I try to bring it home to you all. Ekamevadvayam Brahma, Neha Nanasti Kinchana. One Brahman there is without a second. There is nothing manifold in existence. Briharadanyaka 4.4.19. All this conversation continued up to 11 o'clock at night. After that, his meal being finished, Swamiji retired for rest. The disciple bowed down at his feet to bid him goodbye. Swamiji asked, Are you not coming tomorrow? Disciple, Yes, sir, I am coming, to be sure. The mind longs so much to meet you at least once before the day is out. Swamiji, So good night now. It is getting very late.